I like pizza. I like bagels. I like hot dogs with mustard and beer.
I get the picture.
I'll eat eggplant. I could even eat a baby deer. La 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 la. Who's that baby deer on the lawn?
Enough already.
If I yawn, it's not because I'm bored. I'm just still exhausted.
Oh my god, I forgot that. Oh,
And we are live. Katie, it's on the wine. So back with a new format, 12 Weeks of Christmas, James Smith Academy. And this week, we're going with our topic of the week, which is maintenance or moving to maintenance calories. And we're going to have some listeners' questions, but we start with an icebreaker. I'm going to hand you over to Charlotte. So what have you got in store for us, Charlotte?
Hello. So I've gone for something slightly different. So it's just a bit of fun just to kind of get to know a bit more about each of us as well. So I found some really good icebreaker kind of questions. So I've got a couple that I'm just going to throw out to people. So where's she gone? Nikki. First one. So the zombie apocalypse is coming. Which 3 JSA members are you taking with you on your team and why?
Oh shit. Oh god, I need time to prep for that. I'm going to do 3 from here because it's easier and I can see all your faces. I'm going to choose Alistair because he's going to be a good enough shield.
Oh, I have been referred to as a windbreaker.
Oh, God.
Oh god, I don't know. I think Katie would drink through it with me. And I think this will be great for finding donuts and scavenging for food. How about that?
Nice. It's a
Good
good
answer. I'm not offended.
Alistair, you've got your own late night talk show. Who do you invite as your first guest and why?
My own late night talk show.
Yeah.
Who's my first guest?
Anybody you could possibly want to have.
Is anybody?
I've
already had one person. Hi, James. Plug. So.
No, if you had like your own TV talk show, like your live, yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of names of people. So this is a really important question because actually, if somebody listens and they hear it, I would have the man, the myth, the legend. I would have Tiger Woods.
Okay.
Because I'm a massive golf fan and I'd like to be the person who could try and get him to open up and be less of a robot and less mechanical. And I'd like to hear about his like sex stories and the other side of it, you know, these massive gangbangs that he had, and you know, about, you know, these 100 of women that he had, you know, not just because like where do you think, you know, more than a couple of women is not enough, that you need hundreds?
you got more than a hole in one.
Yeah. But I'd also like to understand his like childhood and you know, trying to grow up and just, you know, just tap into his mind because you know, an incredible golfer at the highest level, but I think, you know, had some dark demons as well. So I try and because he never opens up about it, and I'd like to try and be the person that got him to speak.
Okay, cool. Right, Katie. If a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be, and who would play you?
Who would play me? Probably Amy Adams, who is in Enchanted, and she's very dramatic and sings a lot. I think she's quite small, so basically is me, because I'm very dramatic and small and I sing a lot. So yeah, Amy Adams,
like
I think.
her, actually. Yeah, you do look like her.
Mm.
That's good. Cool.
Oh, do I? I've been dreaming of a true love's kiss.
So you could have it as a musical then. It'd be fine. It'd be good.
Yeah. It would definitely be a musical because in another life I'm definitely a dancer. So yeah.
Nice.
That's the other reason I'd have you with me.
She performed for the zombies to stop them so Alistair could shield everybody. It's fine.
Do the thriller
I've
dance
got
at
your
the-
backs. Don't worry.
Alyssa, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh gosh. Well, I used to always have a big problem with being late places, and my uh-oh. Oh no, I lost you guys.
You're here. You're here.
We got you.
Oh, okay. So sorry. I was always late, and so my grandpa told me once when I was younger, and it was something that didn't dawn on me, was that when you're late, it's not basically it's your lack of respect for the other person and your lack of respect for their time, and so it helped me to be more mindful of being on time. Isn't that boring? But yeah, that was my
Good.
I like that.
I like that.
I think that's the best way of putting it.
Alistair's making notes.
Just taking note, Joe.
Makes sense.
Disrespectful.
I know you don't respect me,
Alistair.
Alistair. It's fine.
Okay, Joe, if you could be a superhero for the day, what superhero would you be and what superpower would you have?
I'm not very good with my superhero knowledge. Actually, no. I would be Buffy and I would kill all the vampires.
I love it.
Didn't
Nice.
hear the first one. You went really quiet.
That would be Buffy.
No, yeah, no, you said something before, and I didn't.
Oh,
Hear.
I'm not great with my knowledge of superheroes.
Okay.
In my head, like I thought you might be Captain Planet. Do you remember Captain Planet?
I don't know who that is.
Captain Planet, he's a hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero.
What, with my holiday habits?
Just because, you're a good person to the world. So I thought maybe you'd be like Captain Planet.
Oh, thank you.
Katie's already planning the musical for you, Joe.
I'll
It's
stop
fine.
drinking wine now, sorry.
I thought it was going to be that you were going to say invisibility, but I thought you'd already mastered that sometimes.
Emily,
Mm.
if you could choose any two famous people to have dinner with, who would you choose and why?
Alive or dead? Do they have to be
Either.
alive or either? Okay.
Any.
In between, whichever.
Hey, Buffy.
All right. JFK, because I just would love to understand his thought process and like how he was as a person, and because it was well before my time, and I remember my mom talking about him and like how monumental he was. So yeah, JFK. And far out. Dermot Kennedy, because he's just really hot and I want to listen to his voice and I like his music.
This is a good choice.
Fair enough.
So both the Kennedys then.
No, well, so one's from one side of the world and one's from the other side of the world.
Yeah, no, just saying, but both Kennedys.
Oh, Yeah, fair point.
Okay, Paddy, if you could be
Yes.
any supernatural or mythical creature, what would you be and why?
Hmm. I'd be a Yeti because they wander around alone and they're hard to find.
I've never seen you look embarrassed before.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know too many creatures. And a Yeti seems like a really stupid one to pick now. I could be a dragon, but I chose a Yeti.
I must admit, I did think you were probably going to go for a dragon, so you did throw me with the Yeti. But it's okay.
Dear.
And
Paddy, you need to start drinking.
One just quickly for you all. If you could hang out with any cartoon character, who would you choose and why?
Lisa Simpson. Because I used to want to be her so much as a kid. I thought she was cool. The coolest kid. I think I've turned into her. Mine is the hair.
Tasmanian Devil, because I kind of feel that's what my life is like sometimes, and and I am a bit of a, like, that bull in the china shop, you know, fuck shit up type thing. So,
Anyone else?
Lightyear.
Nice.
nobody else has
Just
got
say
one.
why.
Is it weird that I'd pick Simba the lion because I used to fancy him? Is that weird? I mean, I know he's a lion, but he's quite hot. No?
Like when he's adult Simba.
Adult. Oh God, yeah.
Okay. Because in my
Adult,
head, I just
yeah.
had that bit when he's held up like the
He's a
little
hottie,
baby. And I was like, what?
Oh, dear.
I'd hang out with him. Stroke his mane.
Right.
Oh God.
And on that note,
Yeah, that's as funny as Danny's comment on one of the podcasts the other day, which, if you've not listened to, go and check out the one where she talks about adopting a prisoner, which was quite odd. But yeah, that's two weird moments this week.
sorry,
Okay.
I tell you who I wouldn't hang out with though. Peppa Pig. Peppa Pig is a little.
Oh my God, no.
Creepy.
She's banned in my house. We do
Goodbye.
not do Peppa Pig.
No, don't hang out with Peppa.
I can tolerate being Bunny, but Peppa Pig is a definite no. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Moving
What a brilliant icebreaker. Thank you.
Oh, nice one, Charlotte.
We'll be back with somebody else next week. Let's now talk about topic of the week. The moving to maintenance calories, having been in a calorie deficit for a period of time. Now, I went through the JSAM group, and if you just use the search bar, there's quite a lot of different subjects on maintenance. If you just put in maintenance calories, lots of different subjects. There's some that, you know, we are definitely not qualified on talking about, but there's some that we've got an opinion on and our own experiences of. The main one that we've kind of picked out is about a fear of maintenance calories and moving from a calorie deficit. And I think we should start with Paddy. So Paddy, you put your hand up when I said who's had that fear. What's your experience been?
I think I've always just sort of thought that I haven't sort of dropped my weight down to a point where I'm sort of happy with my body yet, and so it's always been a sort of fear to start eating more and potentially putting weight back on, or like not making progress in my head, which is completely just aesthetic and not actually strength based. Because I know that like when you're wanting to do strength goals and everything, eating in a maintenance is a lot better, or even a surplus is a lot better for those goals. So it's more just been like a mental barrier with like my own struggle in my head of wanting to look better and drop weight. So I think that's where my fear of maintenance comes from. But then you sort of like go on a deficit for too long and binge for a little bit, and it's probably a lot better to actually just take that slow step back and control it to maintenance. So yeah, I don't know. It just scares me.
Nikki, you were like first with your hand up, I think, when I asked earlier.
Yeah, I second what Paddy said. It's the fear of putting it all back on very quickly, because you've been so used to being in a deficit and reducing calories for however long it's been, it's just the fear of, for me, I didn't, for a long period of time, I didn't weigh myself, and I didn't notice the weight come on, and sort of crept up on me quite slowly, and so I'm kind of worried that I could do that again without really realizing it's all gone back on. That's it for me, really.
Katie, I can see you nodding in agreement with that point. You've done maintenance for a challenge, I think.
Yeah, so the last challenge, the Beat the Boss challenge, I set my challenge goal to be a strength-based goal, and I spoke to the coaches, and Andrew and Steve both said to me that being a deficit is suboptimal, so really you should be in maintenance. And I was like, oh. And I was a bit, and to be fair, I guess I was in the position where I think Paddy's got a point. Like I probably was like, well, do you know what? I'm not really bothered about losing weight now, because I'm sort of, I think Joe made this point in the chat, like I've sort of lost that unrealistic expectation of what I'm going to look like, and I've accepted that I'm never going to look like, you know, some of these Gymshark models and whoever they are. And so I think I got to a point actually where I was like, you know, I'm never going to look like that. So maybe I will just do maintenance to try and hit my strength goal. And then they gave me the advice of, because I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, how do I find my maintenance? And they said, just increase your calories by like 50 calories a week, maybe 100, and see how you get on. And actually, although I was really frightened about doing it, especially with having an eating disorder in the past, and it's never been a goal of mine to just sort of maintain. I've always been like up and down and all over the place. It was really enjoyable. And I'd recommend trying it and doing it in small increments, because it was actually really nice to be able to eat a bit more and experiment with it and feel like I was in control, rather than like having to adhere to something that had been set. Like I was setting it, I was controlling it. So I ended up really loving it.
Alyssa,
yes.
What's your experience been of it? Have you had any experience?
I have had no experience with maintenance yet. I'm not really close. I am like 10, 15 pounds away from hopefully like a maintenance number. So my big thing is I'm afraid that either I'll get to maintenance and it means I only get 50 calories more a day, and I'll be super devastated by that. And I know that that's not how it works, but this is how my brain works. I'm afraid that as soon as I try to eat anything out of a deficit, I will only gain weight, and that maintenance sweet spot won't actually exist. I think a lot of that is where my fear comes from, because really getting to maintenance is like the prize at the end of this journey. Like you don't have to stress about, you're not stressed, but you don't have to be so on top of everything you eat. I mean, I weigh everything, I track everything. And after doing that for over a year, it's like, yes, I can't wait to be in maintenance where I can back off of that. But I'm afraid that maintenance is some mythical creature that doesn't actually exist, and it's just going to translate into weight gain, if that makes sense.
Like a Yeti.
Exactly.
Shut up.
Exactly like a big giant Yeti. That would be too.
Joe, I picked out one point there that I think you might comment on, and that's this thing of maintenance being where you don't have to track anymore. What's because I know that you've maybe not done maintenance as a focus, but you have maintained for about 2 years.
I definitely have been living in the world of maintenance for a long time now, whereas I suppose conceptually for me, I see maintenance as more of a, I'm maintaining this over. I've tried to move away from being fixated around maintenance being a very specific calorie goal or particular thing, and think of it a bit more like, actually, I know what size I'm happy at. I know roughly what's in food. You know, I know that if I have a massive cake, eat a little bit less of something else in the day, and it kind of balances out. So I suppose I've taken quite a relaxed approach to thinking about maintenance, and kind of seeing it as a long-term thing. But also I think like one of the main things, so I initially was terrified because I'd found I stuck really well to my deficit initially. It was the first time I'd ever stuck to anything, and so I had that fear of it all falling apart at the end. But it coincided with holidays and summer, and I was like, I feel amazing. For the first time in my life, I feel amazing. I was like, I'm going to make the best of feeling amazing by going on all these holidays and doing this and doing this. And at the same time, I was like, I'm not going to not enjoy myself. And I kind of learned, I was like, actually, you can have a bit more freedom than what you think you can. And kind of learning very quickly that, you know, but I did continue to track. So I still track now. I track whatever I eat. I don't necessarily track in terms of sticking to a target, but I log, and if I'm not like worrying about what I'm eating, I just log at the end of the day. So yeah, I might have 5,000 calories, who cares? Like, it's not about kind of, so actually for me, by doing the opposite of what a lot of people do in terms of stopping tracking, I continue to track because it means I'm not scared of having a week, which I know, for example, I've had a few weeks when I've gone massive, I'm talking like thousands of calories over, and it hasn't actually done any harm. So realizing that you don't need to be scared of those, you know, it takes quite a long time to undo a significant period of fat loss. And as long as you have the tools of knowing how to drop back into a deficit, if you do go too far with your calories as you're trying to work out your maintenance, just drop back into a deficit. And that's kind of the way I've learned and dealt with it, is that I know what I need to do now. If I need to, you know, if I overdo it a bit with my maintenance when I'm experimenting. So yeah, tracking for me is helpful all the time.
Charlotte, where I think you said you've never been to maintenance, you've always been in a deficit.
Yeah.
Has there kind of been anything, you know, have you got a fear around it? Has there been anything that anybody said that's made you think, oh, I could maybe do that, or I could?
Yeah, I mean, I think my kind of thing, as I was in surplus for most of my life for way too long. So that kind of like made me go into the deficit. But yeah, I mean, obviously going into maintenance and stuff. I mean, I'm nowhere near ready to go into maintenance yet. But I think obviously, like a few weeks back, we spoke about kind of like eating things and obviously going down that kind of route. So obviously that, I think, for me played a big part in it as well. So obviously yeah, I mean, obviously hearing everybody else and kind of like, you know, sort of like, you know, one bad day doesn't make a shit week really. So, you know, there are days when you're going to go over. I will admittedly say that I struggle to sometimes eat all my calories in the day. I'm not a big eater. But, you know, I mean, taking everybody's advice on board and stuff, and, you know, having that day where you know, going over and stuff, or when you're out and about, at least if you've been tracking, like Joe was saying in the chat before, that obviously kind of like, you know, when you get to the point when you've logged all your food for that long, you kind of know roughly what each bit is. So obviously if you are out and about and you just think, you know, sort of I'm just going to have cake or something, at least you know roughly kind of what you're letting yourself in for. So it does make it easier that way. But yeah, just keep tracking. All I need to do is just keep tracking.
Brilliant, thank you.
I think for me,
Go on.
I think for me, tracking means that I'm not making it into a big deal. As in, if I don't track something, I'm saying, I'm not tracking that because I know it's bad, kind of thing. I'm tracking it because I'm telling myself that it's food and I'm going to track it and I'm going to eat. If I'm going to eat, I'm going to enjoy it, and that's it. It's why, slightly not off topic, but it's why I weigh myself every day, because I'm telling myself that the number doesn't fucking matter. It will go up and down, and it's my way of telling myself it doesn't matter. So if I don't track food, then that's me saying I know I'm eating shit and I know I'm going to be over. And it's just the art of tracking, the act of tracking, even to say I'm going to track it, it's in there, and it means I can either do something about it or accept it as it is and move on.
Brilliant.
Good point. By the regular tracking, I've learnt loads. Like I've become much more interested in food and nutrition and thinking about health. And am I getting the right mix of nutrients? Am I eating a good diet? Am I eating a varied diet? That I've got that through tracking everything. Like, doesn't mean that I always care. Some days my diet is purely sugar and carbs. Like, that's okay. But I've definitely got much more interested in eating better as a result of kind of long-term tracking, I think. Yeah.
I agree.
I think equally with what Joe and both Joe and Nikki have said there as well, it can help you to stop demonizing food. Like
that's
Nikki
what I was getting
saying,
at. Yeah.
Yeah, rather than saying like that's bad. And yeah, it means that you've got more of a balance. So like Joe said, it might mean that you make those choices because you know that they are good for you, but it might mean what's good for you might be actually, like for me, this is the first year, age now 36, that I've eaten a Domino's pizza with guilt-free, and that's pretty sad, I guess. But I've done it now, and I've even tracked it, and there's quite a lot of protein in Domino's pizza. So, and it's not the end of the world. I'm not going, you know, like I can have that food. It's not bad. It's allowed, and exactly, sort of realizing that and tracking it and thinking, well, actually, it's okay. I think it can be good for health and good for you if you've had a bad relationship with food in the past too, actually. So yeah,
agree.
Okay, thank you. And Emily, your experience, and maybe linking in with the other common theme with reverse dieting, which I think we agreed was to be left to qualified coaches or those that have done the research. But yeah, what's your experience of maintenance?
Okay, so with maintenance, I've been in maintenance since like halfway through the Beat the Boss challenge. But I track everything. I'm like Joe. Even though I'm in maintenance, everything gets inputted still, and I track it all. Like, I don't necessarily focus on the number, but I had to go to maintenance because my activity levels increased because of the step challenge that happened in June and July. And I found that because I was eating in a deficit, I was getting the shakes, I was getting headaches, because I was still trying to strength train at the same time and do all of the other things in my life like I normally do. And then after talking with the coaches, I decided to go up into like maintenance calories. And that changed everything. It made me feel 100 times better. And I'm that person that weighs myself every day, like Nikki, but I look at it as purely data. Like the number on the scale has never been an issue for me. I've never really thought about it other than just a number. So I use it as data, and I track and I look at my weekly average. And as long as I stay within like a kilo or two of that, I don't really like think about it. And some weeks I go way over. Like if I have lunch out with the girls and have a couple of drinks and all the chocolate, then that's okay, because then the next day I won't necessarily eat as much and it'll all balance itself out. But I found with strength training goals, like with what mine is, it helps. It makes it so much easier. I have so much more energy in the gym, and I can go so much heavier on my lifts. Like this last week, I went really hard on one of my new program days, and it was really like I went heavier than I should have, but I managed it okay, and I didn't get too bad at DOMs. They only lasted for like a day or two because of how much I eat to help my body sustain things like that. So yeah, I like it. I like being in maintenance. It means I don't have to worry about stuff. I just eat. So yeah.
Good. And then I guess kind of, yeah, my experience of maintenance links in more with kind of one of the other topics, which was common throughout the JSAM group. And that was about being in maintenance or a surplus if you're strength training or endurance training. So my experience was around training for a triathlon, and my training hours went up to between 16 and 20 hours a week. And being, doing a lot of training that I wasn't used to, and I couldn't eat enough. I felt like I was eating, and my body would just go, "Thank you," and then eating and "Thank you." And if I wasn't logging and tracking in that, it was very easy to start. What I noticed was I actually started to put on weight, even though I was doing all that. So when I moved into, eating and maintenance, or the maintenance for the training I was doing, I think that's quite important to understand, is if you are moving to maintenance, that number can be very different for different periods. So if you're training for a triathlon, and I was training for like 6 months at very high training levels, but also in a training plan of every 4 weeks having a week off. So my training would drop. So therefore, in those weeks, my calories might need to drop. And it was really about trying to understand what the number was. And then still trying to eat the right foods and not just gobbling everything up because my body was saying, feed me. Picking the right protein, carb, making sure I was, taking on fuel while I was training. There's a whole host of things that you have to do within that. But I then maintained throughout that 6 month period. I didn't drop any weight, and went in thinking, I'm going to train for a triathlon and I'm going to drop tons of weight. But I didn't over that period of time, because I put on weight very quickly, and then I had to try and maintain that, even though I was trying to get my weight down, because my body was just asking for the fuel. And I think if I was doing it again, I would do it very differently. I'd probably look at a maintenance target from very early on, but maybe try to manage that being, under in, recovery weeks, maybe being, a little bit less, just trying to understand it. So I think if you're picking a new calorie target, so in my opinion is, I think obviously the JSAM is, CFD is the kind of headline, and 80% of the people in JSAM are there because of a CFD. But actually you're just calorie tracking. Whether you're calorie tracking towards a deficit, or calorie tracking towards a maintenance, or calorie tracking towards a surplus, you are just calorie tracking. And that's my 50 pence worth. But it was really hard to, but what I noticed is from that is, for the next 6 months where I wasn't training for a triathlon, it's taken me 6 months to move back to CFD mentally. And I've only just got back there for this challenge, despite doing 2 challenges in between where I couldn't get it right. I was still maintaining. So it can be hard returning back as well, I think, when you have been at your high, because my body was used to having more calories. And not just my body, I was habitually used to having more calories.
I was going to say, I think it's worth noting too, that even being under your maintenance calories by like 200 calories is still considered a deficit. So you won't necessarily lose as fast. So the same as like when you do a reverse diet, you go up. When you come back down, you can lower your calories slowly instead of doing it dramatically. So that way you don't end up feeling that way, and it's an easier transition back down. Just my 2 cents.
That's a really good point, actually, Emily, because I think a lot of people forget, like because the numbers are, I don't know, for example, 1,500 for a deficit, 1,700 for maintenance, 1,900 for a surplus. Like people forget that it's all, and also when people feel like they've had a really bad week, they feel, oh, you know, I've gone over my calories, but actually they might have gone over their specific deficit target, but actually they're probably still under their maintenance calories. So it's really important to remember like those bits in between and like actually using that and figuring out your own place. You know, it might be that your deficit doesn't need to be as low as what it is, for example, if you're struggling, or, you know, it's kind of like that. Someone said really early on, we did this Freshers Tips Friday years ago in the Facebook group, and someone said one of the things was be your own scientist, and I think a few people say that as well. It's really true to kind of make sure you understand like what's working for you and your body, and you know what does and doesn't. Kind of spending that time learning that stuff, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I think learning and, like a scientist, experimenting as well, and playing around with what works for you too. And it's actually, I think it takes away the kind of being a deficit can be quite miserable for a long time, and being able to play with your calories can be quite pleasurable, really. Being able to like, oh, I'll eat a bit more here. So I think rather than having an attitude of fear, it's something to actually look forward to and experiment with, and know that you've got the power to go back if you need to.
Jo, when you told us about a little bit about, you know, eating for endurance training. So you did a marathon, right? What was your experience with fueling for a marathon?
Yeah, so I did. There was a group of us did it through the JSA, did a marathon, and it was quite hard. So I did it kind of quite early on, off the back of kind of finishing, like fat loss being my concern, then did the marathon. I was at a point where I didn't need to lose any weight and I didn't want to lose any further fat, so it definitely was about it wasn't running to kind of find an additional fat loss, and kind of say, you know, put my activity up and worked on my calories out and everything. And again, it kind of really reinforced that point where I realized, without meaning to, I was running a lot, and then was adding in, you know, I was doing on weekends 15 to 22 mile runs on weekends on top of everything else. I was still probably averaging, you know, 18-20k steps a day normally, just from walking to work and stuff. Still doing a bit of strength training, although I dropped it down a bit. So I was doing a lot, thought I was eating enough, and was eating a lot more than what I normally would have been, but then realized that actually after a while my period stopped and I was losing loads of weight. So I kind of found, and it's that thing about kind of, just because a number says something on paper doesn't mean that's right for your body. And actually even though I thought I'd accounted enough extra for the extra I was doing, I actually was then going into deficit. So I then just had to make sure I was eating lots of extra Mars bars to kind of account for that. But then, so like the point you made earlier, Alistair, kind of, that's all well and good, and whilst you're running like all that distance, you can get away with, like, you know, not really worrying about what you eat at all. But changing that mentality, like, so stopping after the marathon, when you suddenly go from doing all that to doing nothing. I've done the race now, that's it, I've finished running, kind of just completely stopped. It was really hard not to have 3 Mars bars before breakfast anymore. It took me a little while to kind of, you know, I was still having a Mars bar on the way to the work, and I was just like, I've got to stop this. So kind of then kind of, you know, training your brain that, you know, you can't get away with these things anymore. It's a challenge. You have to kind of really be strict with yourself for a little bit, and then you realize that, you know, nobody needs Mars bars before breakfast every day. You know, fair enough at Christmas and stuff, but yeah, so definitely kind of making sure you're eating enough for what you're doing.
Great. Thank you, Joe. I'm very aware of our time being quite long tonight, and there's lots of many other topics, but within some of those, we might pick them up as individual topics going forward, and they might form part of our podcast. But I think we've covered that subject quite in detail. That we want to move on to listeners' questions, and wrap these up fairly quickly. But we had quite a serious question in, Katie. Do you want to sort of ask us that question?
So the question I had was, is it easy to make new friends as an adult, especially in the middle of COVID?
Okay, so I said I would put my 50 pence in here because I actually joined JSA seeking some new friendship groups, in particular because I wanted to have some friendship groups around fitness, and the JSA appealed to me because it seemed very friendly. So we are a very friendly bunch, but there can often be some cliques within it. But what I found was it wasn't easy to form those straight away, and it took time. But being consistent in showing up, being present in the JSAM group, finding your own people within Instagram, socializing, actually commenting on people's posts, not expecting people to come to you. Finding people that had similar posts, similar subjects, similar interests, some of which you might think of being unique or individual. You'll find other people that are out there like that. And attend, and I know that it's a bit more difficult at the moment, but attend events. My social network has grown over time. Start a podcast, invite guests on. There's
force them to like you. Yeah.
So, I pay all these guys still, but you check some on the post. But I think that it is quite difficult. But be you, because the other thing I tried to do was tried to fit in by not being myself, and remember that you are you, and people will like you for being you.
That is such a good point, Alistair. And I think I only really started engaging with this JSAM group in January myself, and I signed up for the challenge. And at first, I think I tried to hide who I was. I didn't really say I was a mum or I was married or anything. I just tried to be this fitness persona, and I think a few people helped me realize that you have just got to be you, and you can. I know some people don't want to reveal everything about their private lives because it might just be a fitness Instagram that they have, but I think it's important that you let a little bit of that out, otherwise you're not really being you. And it doesn't have to be exposing everything about you, but I just think otherwise you end up with this different persona that you've got to try and fit into all the time. And actually, I've made some really good friends this year especially for doing the challenges, I think, as well, and in lockdown, and learning that you can just be yourself I think that's an excellent point.
You got to reveal your vibe to find your tribe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Great point.
I like that.
That's good.
I like that. I do like that.
I do have the occasional good idea every now and then.
And I think the other thing that I've found is do something new. Put yourself in a different place. Something that's maybe interested you for a long time.
Yes.
And by doing that, you'll find that there's other people doing that at the same time, and you'll like joining the JSAM. It's do something new, put yourself out of your comfort zone, and get involved. But Emily, you moved country and had to rebuild your network. What was your experience there?
In the beginning, it was hard, and I was only friends with people that my other half was friends with, and their partners. But then I got pregnant and I had a baby, which made it it was daunting. But then I got into fitness, and I actually joined a mom's and Bubs boot camp group because I was like, I need to find other women that I can relate to as a mom. I mean, I was already a mom at that point, but my big kids are in the States. So like I was on my own here. And so I needed to find other people to be a part, like be with, and like that could relate to what I was going through. And so I didn't feel isolated because I had been through that and I didn't like it. And so I joined a Moms and Bubs group, and the core group of women that I met there, it's like almost 4.5 years ago now, I'm still friends with, and we go out all the time together. We've moved on like to other fitness avenues, and some go to a CrossFit gym now. Some of us go to one gym altogether. Some do none of it. It's just we've all gone our separate ways as far as fitness goes, but we all do things together. We have like night outs, we do weekends away, we have like an annual Christmas party, like we do all kinds of stuff. So it's been really helpful to find friends that way. So it was putting myself out there outside of my comfort zone for sure, not just socially, but physically, because I hadn't exercised in years. And going to an outdoor fitness boot camp was just very daunting. But then meeting everybody and realizing we were all in the same boat, like we were all beginning our journeys. We were all new moms, or new moms with like the third or fourth child. And it gave us that common ground. So it was like you guys said, putting yourself into a new situation, stepping outside of your comfort zone, and then opening up and being who you actually are, to find people that you can relate to, and they'll accept you for who you are. You just have to find them. It's hard.
I'm just wondering what our little Yeti thinks of making friends, or if he wants to be lonesome wandering the mountains forevermore.
Yeah, it's got a Yeti kind of vibe going on today with like the hair and the big.
You are a bit
jump.
Yeti-ish.
Yeah, I've gone Yeti. I don't know. I've never really struggled to make friends, so I don't know if I can. I'm still in the same city that I was raised in, so I've still got all of my like school friends here and everything. And then I went to university in the same city, so I made more friends there. But university was interesting, actually. Yeah, art school. I was sort of, obviously none of my friends were doing art as well, so I had to make all new friends in that, and it was, I guess I just made friendships through common interests. I guess like Emily was saying, I think it's really important to find people with common interests. So
I think that's the good thing about it. Sorry. I think that's the good thing about the JSAM, isn't it? That's the JSA, that's the common interest. Everyone's got their different goals, and the same with the challenge. Everyone's on a 12-week challenge, but it's completely individual, but it's the common interest of getting to the end of that challenge and reaching your goal. And that's the beauty of it. It's finding the common ground, but it's there because you and however many thousand others have joined the JSA with that common interest, or at least at some point have gone, I want to look into this, I want to learn more about this, or I want to lose weight, or I want to build muscle, or I want to do something health related, I want to improve myself somehow. And that's the common interest, and that's all it has to be. We're all completely different people here, and there's only a few of us.
But that's the thing, it's everybody giving each other encouragement and stuff as well. So on like the Facebook group, you kind of see people on there where they've had like a really shit week, or they're not being able to sort of like get to the bits that they want, and other people are kind of like giving them that inspiration and pep talk and stuff. And again, it's like celebrating achievements with each other as well. And I love being part of the JSA family now. I've found my tribe. But
your vibe.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. And the only other thing that I thought of when everybody was talking was, if you want people to socialize with you, is do an event, do an online event, do something that you are interested in, and invite people. I can't remember who said it, but if you build it, they will come.
You're not talking about an OnlyFans page here, right? I'm just checking.
Hey, we all know about what that leads to, don't we? So,
Yeah,
It's
like
already started last week with this yoga.
yeah, my
the three
OnlyFans
angles
page-
of Alistair.
my OnlyFans page is a man underscore does yoga. No, it does. No,
Kevin
we-
Costner and Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
It was. You're right.
I had to ask Paul what an OnlyFans page. I didn't know what one was. I said, and I had to ask Paul what one was, and of course he knew.
Okay. Oh, babe.
But no, yeah.
On that note, if you want to hear from Paul, he has done his own podcast with me. He's
Plug.
also part of the old season Beat the Boss, so you can go check that out. And we're going to wrap it up for this week. Our new framework was meant to be within 40 minutes, but I feel that we tackled two really serious subjects this week, and there's lots of good information in there. We will be back next week, and we will pick We're going to pick two topics. And we're going to put them out for a vote on an Instagram page on a Tuesday, provided the new Instagram actually lets us do the things that we used to do. And we will then use the vote to determine our topic and a point of discussion. And we'll be putting listeners' questions out on the Instagram page on a Friday. If you haven't hit like. So if you haven't hit share. And I'll let James repeat that, because some of you are watching and haven't hit liked. Some of you are watching and haven't hit share.
How very dare you.
That's, we'd really appreciate you listening, but that little bit more.
That's not put off the listeners, hey.
People.
I'm not putting you off. I'm just asking.
But also, thank you, and we love you.
Yeah,
I do love them. I love every single one of them.
Feel the vibe during the tribe. Push like.
Feel the vibe.
Okay, thank you for everybody listening live on Facebook and also across all the other platforms. We do all appreciate you, and we will be back next week. Thank you.
It's Alistair here. Make sure you fucking like this, share it. Not a charity. Down £9 a month because you bastards. So get this out there. Get this on the stories. And if you enjoyed it, if you haven't hit like, you like already. If you haven't hit share, hit share. There you go.